Welcome to Pontification Nation. I'm your host, Ricky Skittle, coming to you as always live from my mother's basement. Tonight, we're just going to talk a little bit about the State of the Union. I wanted to get this kind of fresh off the speech while it was still in my head fresh, so it's going to be a little raw and uncut. We got a new logo, and I have that on there, so you can look at that and check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I really just want to talk about Donald Trump and the President of the United States. How do you not like this guy? I mean, tell it like it is, Donald. I broke the speech down into about 4 or 5 different parts. The first part I called optimism. Second part I called the call them out section. And then the third part is kind of trade and economics. And then the fourth was consensus. So we're going to go through each one of those parts and talk about why Donald Trump is winning. So he opens the speech by talking about the unlimited potential, the historic breakthroughs that we're making, not 2 parties, but one nation. He's calling for unity. He's saying it's not the agenda of the parties, but it's the agenda of the American people. Talks about American first foreign policy, which was great. Victory is not winning for your party. Victory is winning for our country. Just continually hammering that home. Like, come on, people. What is wrong with you? Nothing can compete with America. A lot of Democrats had a real big issue with that. I don't understand what their problem with American exceptionalism is. And AOC, at this point was throwing shade. I mean, she was sitting on her hands, looking all nasty. He's talking about great things and unity and all this good stuff. What he's doing is showing the American people who these people really are, right? Because we don't get to see who they really are because they have talking points and everything's so manufactured. Which, speaking of manufactured, Nancy Pelosi most certainly had more Botox in her face than anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not sure if she was just trying to make so it wouldn't move because she didn't want people to see how disgusted she was with American greatness, or if maybe that's, just what she had to do. But her face throughout the thing was very fun to watch. I had a really good time. And AOC definitely, and Trump played these people. What I loved about this speech is it helped you realize just how much smarter he is than any of them. I mean, they are ridiculous, and he got it all on tape for the American people to see. Okay. So he ended the first that first part with, choose greatness. And he said, we're just getting started. And then he moves into the economics portion of it. He talks about the numbers, the wage growth. None of the Dems are clapping for any of this. He talks about 5 million people off food stamps. They get disgusted. You know why? Because they want those people dependent on the government, because people dependent on the government are easy to control. And he's showing the American people that because they're upset that the American people are doing well. They don't like that because it lessens their grip on power. You can see the disgust in the face, while he's talking about how much better off the American worker is. You can see it on the face of all of them. They just are disgusted about the American magonomic explosion that is going on, that continues to defy every single estimation of what job numbers are going to print. I mean, clearly it was much better for Trump to have this speech today rather than last week, because he got that $304,000 print on Friday, which is an insane amount of jobs to continue to be growing in the 10th year of an economic expansion. I mean, these things don't happen. They've never happened because we didn't have a real expansion. It was all controlled, right? So he's talking about how Maganomics work. And I'm going to have a video on Maganomics this week, definitely. We're going to get into deep details about what Maganomics are and why the American people are doing so much better under Trump's policies than they were under previous policies. And this is not only just Obama, but all of them. The globalists, the Uni Party, the cabal. These people are sick, I write. I'm not exactly, I guess I'm just kind of talking about how disgusted they are because this is the whole Maganomic thing. This is where I write about Nancy's Botox. Her face didn't move, but you could definitely see her eyes droopy. I mean, she probably was on some medicine too, because she didn't look right. So when Donald Trump declared that the State of Union was strong, Nancy Pelosi shook her head no. Now, what she doesn't realize is that the state of the union, the American people, is strong. It's the state of politics that isn't, because she's a part of them. Politics have been broken ever since she's been in the House of Representatives. She's disgusting. She's sick. She's corrupt. The one big thing I want to talk about when we get to the illegal immigration, is none of them. He was talking about cartel. Well, we'll talk about it in a sec. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read my writing here. He says, he doesn't like, bad politics. He says he doesn't like foolish wars. And he says he doesn't like ridiculous partisan investigations. And he goes, peace and legislation are better than war and investigations. So he's using his, mastery of the English language to, again, get those slogans out, those things that are easily digestible for the American people to understand. Peace and legislation are better than war and investigations. I mean, most certainly. So this is the call them out segment. This is the part where they truly showed their stripes. They showed who they were. He was talking about legislation and investigation. He goes into his nominees, how he has over 300 nominees that haven't been confirmed yet in 2 years. It talks about how they came together on prison reform. It's talking about the cartels and calling them out as drug dealers, human traffickers, and he wants to put them out of business. When he said that, the Democrats were disgusted, right? Disgusted. And I can't prove this, but I'm working on it. But I believe that El Chapo and those cartels pay people in our government as well and bribe people in our government as well. We know for a fact that he was bribing the president of Mexico for $100 million and probably many other people in Mexico. Like since we had our immigration policies where you can bring a kid to the border and you're allowed in, Mexican murders have doubled, right? In 2 years, they've doubled because the cartels are fighting over smuggling routes coming up from Mexico. Now, Trump knows this, and a lot of people know this, but not all of us know this. So when he talks about that, they're bringing children, using them as currency to get through the border and avoid, detention, because you can't detain them when they have a kid longer than 21 days, right? So then they get out and then they sell the kids into slavery, and then we never see them again. They just end up dead, or they end up in a swamp or a bog somewhere. He's calling them out, and these people are disgusted about this. Like, that's who they are. He called them out on the wealthy and the elite have gates, walls, and guards. He says it's time that we have a wall for everybody else, because all of this stuff doesn't affect you guys in the elite. It affects the working people. It affects the people of America, the people who you're supposed to represent. The policies are destroying the core of the country. He says tolerance for illegal immigration is insanity. He says it's stupid. It's crazy. It's a losing battle. Calls them out about using kids as currency. Calls out MS-13. None of them are clapping when he's talking about. I mean, they're arresting and deporting thousands of MS-13, and there's thousands of them coming right back in the border. He says he's letting the American people know the reality of the situation, so they don't have to sit here and listen to this. This is why Nancy Pelosi didn't want him to give the State of the Union, because she knew he was going to tell the American people like it is. Tell it like it is, Donald. Now comes the consensus part. So he's talking about, again, back into economic numbers. We're talking about more women in the workforce, and then the new young women that were elected to the House, all got up and started cheering and chanting for themselves. So again, they only care about themselves, but he got them kind of to stand up and cheer. He was like, "Whoa, you guys aren't supposed to do that." He called them out for that. And then they have this consensus. He talks about trade because he's just telling these globalists that, I'm done with this. I'm done with you guys. I mean, what Mitch McConnell just did in the Senate is disgusting. talking about pulling out of, Afghanistan. It's just disgusting. The man is commander in chief. The Senate does not have responsibility over that. Talks about infrastructure. This is again part of the consensus part of the speech. You want it. I want it. It's not an option to not do it. He wants to invest money in it. This is stuff that they're into. He's the prescription drug pricing. This is something I've known about for years, and now I'm able to talk about it. But we pay 1 million times more for pills, the same pills, than anyone else in the entire world. It's the exfiltration of wealth from America. That's what it is. We pay more, and then we give it away to everyone else because we're rich and they should just get stuff for free. Now, granted, when it comes to medication, we should give aid, but at the same time, we shouldn't give aid off of our backs. We shouldn't make our insurance cost so much. We need to worry about us and focus on us. And this is what he's saying here. It's the exfiltration of wealth. Global freeloading, he called it, which is a great term. It's way better than exfiltration of wealth because exfiltration is a nerd word. Global freeloading. So in any case, he says America has done to advance the human condition. America has done more to advance the human condition and American freedom. American freedom. That's what he's talking about. We don't have the freedoms that we used to have. Like if you think about it like this way, AOC, her policy is ban fossil fuels in 10 years. Donald Trump's policy is ban AIDS in 10 years. Let's worry about AIDS. Worry about stuff that matters. Talks about childhood cancer, and I just got to say this, the girl Grace that he had it was adorable, and I pray that she continues to have a good, safe and happy recovery, and who's not going to clap for her? School choice, they showed their stripes there, they weren't clapping, and then he goes in and starts talking about abortion, and Mr. President, if you've been listening to the show and you caught my episodes last week, I appreciate you giving me a nod here in the abortion category. But he called them out on this. Build a culture that cherishes innocent life, he says. Legislatively fix the fact that people can't kill little babies. It's just amazing that he did this in the State of the Union. I mean, I can't remember a time where a president kind of talked about that, in the State of the Union, but I think it was a tremendous thing to talk about, and clearly to talk about Northam as well, because they don't want that to be part of the conversation. That's why those things got leaked on Northam. Remember, the Democrats leaked that stuff on Northam because they didn't want this to be part of the conversation. Trump just made it part of the conversation again. They didn't clap for the outspending. He was talking about war and the nuclear treaty with Russia, and he said if they don't want to do it, we're going to outspend everybody. Blah blah blah. It was pretty funny. But I enjoyed it. But I was surprised that they wouldn't clap for spending money because they really like spending other people's money. Maduro in Venezuela, they didn't really clap for any of that. He was like, born free, stay free, socialism versus capitalism. He's making that argument because that's what we were talking about just the other day. We have a choice in this country right now. It's socialism or capitalism. These Democrats are not Democrats. They're socialists. Find the Democrats. Let's talk to them and talk some sense into them and get rid of this socialist movement. This is, like the 30s and 40s again in this country. All we need is a recession, and then we'll just give up all of our freedoms and powers to the state. Yeah, right. I'm not interested. Don't sign me up. In closing, I mean, it was a really good speech that he gave. It was also nice. Mom let me come upstairs because, I don't get any TV in the basement. So she let me come up and watch it. And so I enjoyed that. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. And the other thing, great nations don't fight endless wars. Just really, really great use of his guests, and, who they were and what they did, having the guy who rescued the other guy. I mean, I think that was just a straight call out to the new congresswomen who believe that the Holocaust did not happen. He really used his emotional pieces really well. And, at the end, he says, it's just time to choose greatness. He called them out, called everybody out. Said, what are you going to be doing? Look at the people who came before you and what they did. And look at what we're doing. This is insane what we're doing. This isn't America. He called them out at the end and said, come on. And Nancy was tilting over at the end. I have in my notes here. She was tilting to the side. It was pretty funny. If you didn't watch the speech and focus on her, it's pretty funny to watch her throughout the speech. But in any case, what a great speech by the President of the United States. And I'm not just saying that to carry water for him, because if it wasn't a great speech, I wouldn't say so. Now I'm going to go watch what everyone else thinks, because I did this before I heard that. And if I need to update anything with anything that I hear from them, and maybe it changes my perspective or pontificating a little bit, I will update the video. Thanks so much for listening tonight. And, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you know whenever we post new content. Have a great night. For Pontification Nation, this is Ricky Skittle, out.